At 3:18 a.m. on October 3rd, 2025, a large Chinese logistics convoy completed its journey to a heavily fortified depot near the Dnipro River, on the outskirts of Kherson. The column of over 50 heavy trucks carried over 4.5 million pounds of ammunition, rockets, and fuel. Protecting the convoy was a significant security detail, featuring ZBL-09 infantry fighting vehicles and a layered air defense system of HQ-17 missile launchers and Type 95 anti-aircraft guns. As the depot's floodlights switched on, the scale of the operation became clear. Trucks began backing up to reinforced underground bunkers in a practiced, methodical way. This entire process, however, was being watched from above. Ukrainian surveillance drones maintained a constant watch, sending a live encrypted feed to command centers in Kyiv. Ukrainian commanders quickly realized this wasn't a routine resupply. The sheer volume of material and the heavy security pointed to one conclusion. This was a stockpile for a major offensive intended to sustain a core-level offensive in the south. The logistics hub was the primary artery for a planned southern attack designed to shift the entire balance of the war. At 3:26 a.m., the first stage of the Ukrainian response began. A flight of 6 Bayraktar TB2 reconnaissance drones appeared over the area, circling at an altitude of 9,800 feet. From their high vantage point, their thermal and optical sensors started mapping the depot in detail, pinpointing the location of every truck, air defense unit, and radar antenna. A few minutes later, 2 older Soviet-era Tu-143 Strij reconnaissance jets flew a fast, low-altitude pass over the depot. This was a deliberate deception. The jets were configured to produce a large radar signature, making them look like a full-scale bomber strike. The Chinese air defense network responded exactly as planned. Believing they were under major attack, the HQ-17 missile operators locked on and fired multiple 931 7 Type missiles. At the same time, the Type 95 anti-aircraft guns filled the sky with tracer fire, aiming at the decoy jets. The targets, however, were not real bombers. They were 2 expendable reconnaissance drones that had served their purpose. By the time the Chinese missile crews could reload and understand what had happened, Ukrainian electronic intelligence units had already used the radar emissions to map the exact coordinates of every active air defense battery. The deception worked perfectly, forcing the Chinese forces to reveal their positions and waste valuable interceptors on non-existent threats. While the Chinese air defense crews were still scanning the empty skies, the real attack began at 3:32 a.m. A swarm of Ukrainian first-person view (FPV) drones, small and loaded with anti-armor charges, approached the depot from several directions at once. Flying below 120 feet and using the terrain for cover, they were invisible to the depot's radar systems, which were searching for higher flying targets. The first drone in the swarm locked onto its target, a primary fuel tanker carrying over 90,000 pounds of diesel. The drone's shaped charge detonated, piercing the tanker and igniting the fuel. The resulting explosion produced a fireball that rose nearly 250 feet, lit up the entire depot like daylight, and the blast wave was strong enough to knock over nearby trucks. Seconds later, 2 more FPV drones hit a truck loaded with 152 mm artillery shells. This impact started a catastrophic chain reaction. One by one, the high explosive shells cooked off in their containers, erupting in a violent sequence that sent shrapnel flying across the depot. Flames, fed by leaking diesel from other damaged trucks, began to spread out of control. Chinese escort crews tried to shoot down the drones with machine guns, but the small, fast, low-flying targets were almost impossible to hit. At the same time, another part of the Ukrainian plan was unfolding on the ground. Unseen, Ratel-S autonomous ground robots emerged from hidden trenches along the depot's edge. Their thermal sensors identified fortified machine gun nests and a camouflaged mobile radar truck. These coordinates were instantly sent to Ukrainian artillery units miles away. The earlier air defense deception had not only wasted Chinese missiles, but had also kept their units stationary, making them perfect targets for precise artillery strikes. At 3:39 a.m., as fires raged and secondary explosions continued to shake the depot, The next phase of the operation began. Low-flying Ukrainian heavy-lift drones approached the depot's perimeter and dropped their payloads, several Mongoose autonomous ground robots. Each robot, about the size of a backpack, landed silently under a micro-parachute in the tall grass, less than 300 yards from a Chinese armored vehicle staging area. Using six-wheel drive and passive infrared navigation, the machines began moving toward their targets. The armored column parked near the depot included modern Type 99A main battle tanks. These formidable 55-ton machines, with frontal armor exceeding 700 mm of composite steel, have a specific vulnerability the Mongoose was built to exploit. The robots silently approached the tanks, their sound masked by the chaos of the burning depot. One by one, the Mongoose units used magnetic arms to attach themselves to the underside of the tanks, right over the engine compartments. Each robot carried a specialized shaped charge designed to detonate only when the tank's engine was started. By 3:46 AM, over 8 main battle tanks had been fitted with these disabling devices. Their crews, distracted by the attack on the depot, had no idea. Any attempt to move the tanks would now trigger powerful explosions that would disable the multi-million-dollar vehicles. The Mongoose units then sent a confirmation signal back to their operators. At 3:52 AM, with the depot on fire, a 6-man Ukrainian Special Forces team was already on the move. They travelled quickly on sound-dampened all-terrain vehicles, crossing a dry canal about 2 miles from the depot. Using advanced night vision, they had a clear view of their surroundings. Within minutes, the team reached the outer line of Chinese guard posts. Each post was manned by 2 soldiers with QBZ-95 assault rifles. The Ukrainian operators dismounted and approached on foot. 2 commandos with suppressed MP5 SD submachine guns neutralized the first 2 guards before they could raise an alarm. Another part of the team moved to a small auxiliary fuel yard where nearly 40,000 gallons of diesel were stored in large drums. They attached powerful thermobaric charges to the stacks of drums, setting them on timers synchronized with the main attack. The last 2 operators cut through the perimeter fence and planted a shaped charge on a communications relay truck, ensuring a key command link would be severed. By 4:05 AM, the team had silently taken out 3 guard posts and rigged key targets for destruction, all while the drone strikes provided the perfect cover. At 4:12 AM, the main ground assault began. A Ukrainian armored spearhead, led by Leopard 2 A6 main battle tanks, advanced from a tree line southwest of the depot. They were followed by Bradley M2 infantry fighting vehicles. Overhead, RQ-20 Puma drones streamed thermal imagery of Chinese positions to a battery of French-made Caesar 155mm self-propelled howitzers located 12 kilometers away. The artillery opened fire with precision, hitting Chinese mortar pits and the previously located air defense vehicles. This suppressive fire created a safe path for the advancing armor. The first Leopard tank crested a ridge and destroyed a machine gun bunker with a single shot. The Bradleys followed, using their 25mm cannons to suppress the Chinese defensive lines. By 4:18 AM, Ukrainian armor was within 1,000 feet of the depot's southern gate, having decisively breached the perimeter. At 4:22 AM, Ukraine executed its final deception. 2 MiG-29 fighter jets flew across the depot's airspace at 20,000 feet, broadcasting signals that mimicked an incoming cruise missile strike. Believing a massive air attack was underway, the remaining Chinese air defense crews pointed their radars and launchers skyward. Their electronic warfare units deployed the JY-300 system, flooding the spectrum with jamming at 5.8 GHz. This was exactly what Ukraine was waiting for. The jamming meant to blind Ukrainian missiles, instead blinded the Chinese operators to a threat coming in at treetop level. From the west, a Ukrainian Ram-2 loitering munition flew just above the ground. Its signal was sent not by radio waves, which were being jammed, but through a fiber optic relay station hidden in a farmhouse 1.2 miles away, making it immune to interference. The Ram-2 had one critical mission: Destroy the mobile command vehicle coordinating the depot's defense. Protected by the very jamming the Chinese had turned on, the drone slipped in undetected. At 4:29 AM, the Ram 2 began its final dive, striking the Chinese command vehicle. The explosion tore through the vehicle and vented directly into the main underground storage bunker right behind it. The intense heat ignited the stacked PHL-03 rockets and artillery shells stored inside, triggering a cataclysmic chain reaction. Massive explosions erupted from the ground, sending fireballs hundreds of feet into the air. A second drone strike then destroyed a communications tower, cutting off the last line of command. By 4:35 AM, the facility was no longer a logistics hub. It was a massive, burning crater. The artery for the planned Chinese offensive had been severed, crippling their supply chain in the south for the foreseeable future. Amidst the wreckage, Ukrainian soldiers found 2 wounded Chinese crewmen and immediately provided medical aid. The mission was a demonstration of a highly synchronized, multi-domain operation. The destruction of the Kherson depot was a major tactical victory and a strategic blow that severely disrupted enemy plans in the southern theater.